everyone, and welcome to the third race weekend of the DTM season 2014. We're here in Budapest at the Hungaroring, and finally, after 26 years, the DTM is racing here once again. And for sure, we can say after the qualifying yesterday, it's not the 7 DTM champs showing their magic, it's the young guns. And one of the young guns is also next to me, Christian Vitores. Now, you celebrated your first victory in Oschersleben 2 weeks ago. However, here you're now starting last in P23. I guess the weather god is not going to be able to help you out today, or what do you think?
Well, unfortunately not. It looks good, blue sky, so yeah, it's not so good for us. We are struggling a little bit at the moment under normal dry conditions. That's what we know. We're working on that problem, but yeah, it just takes time, and yeah, the target must be to be competitive at the end of the year again, and hopefully we're not losing too many points this weekend, and nose rings should be good for us, and yeah, I hope that we just keep scoring some points here, and then we go on from there.
Thank you very much, Christian. Best of luck for the race today. And Christian Vitores took us for a lap this morning. Check it out.
Hi, I'm Christian Vitores. I'm driver for Mercedes-Benz in DTM, and I'll now take you around the lap in Budapest. So it's the first lap in Budapest. We are now on the main straight, which will be probably the best part for overtaking. We're just exiting the first corner, up to 5th gear. We're now going into the left-hand corner, which is the 2nd gear corner. It's pretty much down the hill, so it's very important to get the apex right. Carry the speed. That's a right-hander, which should be easy flat under normal conditions. It now goes up the hill into a very fast left-hander, and back in the right-hander. Now we're coming to the slowest part on this track, which is the chicane. 2nd gear, get the apex right. And now it's into the combination left and right, and the next one will be left as well. It's very important to get the apex right, to not make any mistakes. Carry the speed into the right-hander here, which is a very fast one. And yeah, now we're going into the last sector, which starts with a very slow right-hand corner, and only 2 corners left. We now can see the paddock up there. This one is the pit entry, which we use for a good lap time. Last corner, carry the minimum speed, it's very important here, and then of course go early on full throttle again. And that's it. There was 1 lap in Budapest.
I'm now here with Mike Rockenfeller. You're starting in P13 today, and your colleague Timo Scheider is starting in P15. In other words, it doesn't seem to run really smoothly in your team. What is the problem exactly?
It's quite difficult to point out one thing, but what I can say is that we changed the setup philosophy, let's say. After the first 2 races coming here, we tried to improve qualifying performance especially. I was pushing for that, to go in a different way, different route. Somehow it didn't pay off that we made this big change to the car.
Now you managed a 4th and a 2nd place this season, but the season is yet so young. What does that mean to you? I mean, it's the 3rd race weekend.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said last year, it's nice to be the leader of the championship, but I think today it will be hard to defend this lead. I think I will lose it pretty likely. So, but it doesn't mean the end of the world. We have 7 more races after this one. I try to take some points home from Budapest today. Even though I start on 13, I think maybe it's possible to come in the top 7. So therefore, championship is long. It's a tough one. Also, I think for example, Wittmann, he's on pole, he has a good chance today. It can happen in the future that he's not on the front row, and then we have to be there, So it's a long long season, and it's DTM and it's life. I'm frustrated, but today I try my best.
Rocky, best of luck. Thank you very much.
So Mike Rockenfeller, we hear from there as we take you through the grid now for this DTM round at the Hungaroring. It's Marco Wittmann and Timo Glock on the front row.
The second row of the grid is where you find the best of the Audis. Miguel Molina behind the wheel of it. Alongside him is Maxime Martin.
Antonio Felix da Costa impresses with P5 and Augusto Farfus alongside P6.
Adrian Tombe had a spin in Q1, but he will start 7th ahead of Nico Müller, his best qualifying thus far.
Next up then we see Bruno Spengler P9 and Jamie Green alongside him in the Audi.
These are the drivers that didn't make it out of Q2. Matthias Ekström was one of them. He starts 11th. Edo Mortara is 12th.
Then we see the man that we've just been speaking to, the champion Mike Rockenfeller, with Joey Hand alongside him.
Next on the grid is where you find Timo Scheider, who lost his best lap time after exceeding track limits. Pascal Wehrlein is the best of the Mercedes drivers.
Then we see another Mercedes with Robert Wickens, P17, and Martin Tomczyk, P18.
And then the drivers that didn't make it out of Q1. Paul de Resta, 19th. Daniel Junqueira, 20th.
Then it is Gary Paffett and Vitaly Petrov.
And the last driver on the grid is Christian Vitoris, the winner last time out. 5 Mercedes at the back of the grid. Let's go back down trackside and join Verena.
Yes, I'm here with Marco Wittmann, who's just being strapped into the car. Marco at the moment is second in the championship and in pole position. Obviously the best position. I'm pretty sure that he is confident. Let me just ask him. Marco, at Oschersleben you were also starting in pole position, then a lot went wrong. How confident are you that today you might ace the race?
Well, I'm pretty confident. I think in Oschersleben we were a bit unlucky. But today I think weather stays dry and I think we have some more luck. So I'm really looking forward to the race.
All right, well, best of luck. Thank you very much, Marco. So ready? And back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Verena, doing her level best to get Marco Wittmann for us there. Now, this Hungaroring circuit, David Addison, it's tight, it's uphill, it's downhill. There are not very many opportunities for overtaking. One of the few opportunities is just off the start-finish straight into turn 1. If Marco Wittmann gets this absolutely right and gets away, the melee behind him, because that's where we're expecting the action to be.
You're right, Dave Richardson, absolutely the case. If he can get a good start, it's a staggered grid, of course, in the DTM. He's a car length up on everybody else anyway. If he can convert pole position into a good getaway, he will lead into turn 1 and hopefully any drama will be behind him. But getting a good start is easier said than done, yes. And this is such a competitive category. Now what we also have to factor in is how good BMWs are around here, and the fact that to begin with we're going to have 2 races, one for those on the option tyre, which is the quicker, and those on, if you like, the prime tyre, the standard tyre. So there'll be 2 little battles to look for. Pit window here, let's do that next. It's a 41 lap race and the pit window will come after lap 14 and close on lap 27. Now the most you can use your option tyres for are 19 laps, so those that start will run to lap 19, and those that will run them second will probably pit on lap 22 in order to get 19 laps out of them towards the very end of the race. So we've got that little battle to look for as well as we get ready for this third round of DTM.
And there we see the many fans here at Budapest that are going to enjoy this DTM race. The grid for you once again then. Wittmann and Glock going on the option tyres with Molina as well. The first to show on the standard tyre, if you like, is Maxime Martin there, the BMW driver P4. Then it's Antonio Felix da Costa, Farfus, Tombe, Müller, Spengler, Green, Ekström and Mortara. The top 12 positions. Then we see Rocky, Joey Hand, Timo Scheider all on the options. Pascal Wehrlein goes with the standard tyre. Then it's Wickens, Tomczyk, de Resta, Junqueira, Paffett, Petrov and Vitoris. Now, interestingly, David, it's 20 degrees is the temperature we need for those option tyres. But before we talk about that, Verena has got Jens Marquardt.
Yes, indeed. Jens Marquardt, in Oschersleben it was rather disappointing, but here in Budapest the race weekend is looking really, really good. You've got 5 BMWs in the top 6. Are you looking forward to a victory?
Well, obviously we have the very good starting position now for the race, but we only know in 1 hour's time. As you say, a lot of things can happen. In Oschersleben it looked good for quite a long time as well, and then the rain came, and so today it doesn't look like the rain will come, or I pray for it, so we'll see.
Okay, and you must be really, really proud about your youngsters. I mean, you've got Wittmann, you've got Glock in the front row, and then in P4 you've also got Maxime Martin.
Yes, and Antonio is then in 6 as well. So yeah, I think we really have a good mix there. Obviously, the young guys were in a very good position yesterday in qualifying, but Timo balanced the whole thing. But 6 cars in, or actually 6 cars in total in the top 10 is a very good starting position. So we'll see.
All right, have a fantastic race. Thank you very much, and back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Verena. Talking to Jens Marquardt, of course, the boss of BMW Motorsport. I was going on to say, David, that the Hankook engineers are saying it's 20 degrees is where the optimum temperature to get the most out of the option tyres. And it's become a little bit more overcast now.
Yeah, the temperature has been better today than we've had over the course of the weekend. We come into this third round with Mike Rockenfeller 5 points up in the championship, as you can see, and he is going to be one of the drivers starting on the option tyre, hoping he can make progress early on. But the temperature, if it has dropped a little, is going to affect it. Having said that, of course, the tyres will get warmth in through natural use anyway over the first few laps, so that should help as well. Maybe not off the line, but I don't think it's going to be short, if it is much short of those 20 degrees. I think the option tyre should be good to work in this. And the leading driver who's going to start on the prime is Maxime Martin, so the battle between him, Farfus and Tombe will be interesting over the first few laps, and to see how many of the others they can keep behind them. At Ottersleben, it was a bit of a rogue race because we had the rain falling as well. Here, there's one line, and overtaking is not that easy. So it might be easier for those on the prime tyre to hang on to a good overall place.
Can we talk about the circuit here, David? Because you and I did a track walk on Friday when we arrived, and we've seen in every category that's raced here as part of the DTM weekend that the track limits rule has been ruled with a rod of iron. A lot of people being warned about exceeding the track limits, and parts of the circuit are very narrow, aren't they?
They are. I mean, that's one of the downsides of the circuit. The drivers love it. It's a real challenge. It's got some good mix of corners in it. But yes, it is difficult in terms of overtaking. And it is very undulating. There is one line. And the track limits at turn 4, which is a fast left as you go uphill, and turn 11 towards the end of the lap where you can run wide. It's a fast right-hander. That was where yesterday people were losing lap times in the qualifying session because of exceeding the track limits. The same in the race. If you're seen to gain an advantage or do it repeatedly, then there may be drive-through penalties to come, and a penalty of that nature is going to be about 20 seconds.
Okay, we look at the grid then as final preparations are being made before we get this DTM race underway. There is our champion from last year, Mike Rockenfeller, then, who leads the championship. He's already said, hasn't he, that he expects to lose that lead today, but we are still in the very early stages of this DTM season for 2014, and it's a welcome back to Hungaroring from 1988 last time here.
And we've been talking from where we are above the grandstand about it being overcast, while one or two people that are out there are saying that it is very warm indeed and the sun is pretty strong. So they are confident that it's over the 20-degree mark, and therefore that the Hankooks are going to work those option tyres. So ignore the temperature factor. You can see the shirt sleeves for many of the fans here, and DTM last time it came here in 1988 was all about Mercedes. Johnny Cecotto won both races for Mercedes. I have to say, I'm not entirely convinced that history will repeat for Mercedes. It's going to be a very, very long afternoon for them. There is the man on pole position, Marco Wittmann. Timo Glock had a podium here in Formula 1. Not many of the old guard, as you might say, of the DTM will have raced here before. Those that have come through Formula 1, GP2, GP3 will have done so in junior single-seater categories. We have a very slow Maxime Martin off the grid. Those are the reasons that the yellow flags wave. Maxime Martin was very slow away. Now, not everybody overtook him, but Bruno Spengler has stalled as well. Does he get away last? No, not quite. If everybody goes past you, you must start at the back. If you are able to stay ahead of at least one car, you can weave through and retake your grid position. But interesting, 2 BMWs bogged down on the green flag lap. Are we going to see something similar at the start? Just to go back to my track knowledge bit for a moment. As I say, those that have come out of junior single-seater racing have been here more recently to race. Yes, but everybody was here for a long test pre-season. Antonio Felix da Costa, as an example, somebody who won both his GP3 races here a couple of years ago. The likes of Matthias Ekstrom haven't raced here, but they did so many miles in testing. Shouldn't be an issue. Any professional top-line driver can go to a new circuit and get used to it pretty quickly.
Okay, the grid again. Wittmann, Glock, front row. Then it's Molina, Martin, Felix da Costa, Farfus, Tombe, Muller, Spengler, Green, Ekstrom, and Edo Mortara. Then is P12 on the grid. Then it is Rocky, Joey Hand, Scheider, Wehrlein, Wickens, Tomczyk, Di Resta, Juncadella, Paffett, Petrov, and Hero to Zero, of course, taking the win in Oschersleben, starting stone last this weekend is Christian Vitoris.
And that grid underlining the fact that there are 7 champions, 7 former champions on the grid, and none of them got into Q3. And we were talking in qualifying about the fact that things are changing. The established guard is now starting to struggle against the career single-seater races. This is the replay of both Martin and Spengler struggling away from the line. And if that repeats when we actually get the race start, then that's going to radically change things, especially for Maxime Martin, who did a very good job yesterday. He's 4th on the grid. Bruno Spengler was the quickest driver, if you like, not to go into Q3. He was 9th on the grid. That is the Hungaroring. It is a busy old lap because you've got around here 14 corners, 6 go left, 8 go right, 28 gear shifts a lap, which is 1,148 over the course of the race, to save you doing the sums. 3 sectors as normal, lots of undulations. The best overtaking opportunity is at turn 1, but we've seen in other races this weekend, if you can force a mistake out of somebody ahead of you, then you can overtake elsewhere.
So there, the temperatures for you, 21.5, the air temperature, track temperature, 30 degrees. So, well, that's well within the window of where those options are going to work well.
That'll do for us.
Yes,
that's good.
There's Augusto Farfus then, who did a good job of avoiding Maxime Martin just on that formation lap there, didn't he? Having to dive and avoid him. And Bruno Spengler also, another one that bogged down and didn't get away on that formation lap, but luckily he did manage to get away before the last car passed him. Jens Marquardt then, as we take a look at all the manufacturers' teams then in their garages preparing for this, the next race in the DTM for 2014, the Ice Watch livery of our pole sitter Marco Wittmann right on pole position. And alongside him then is Timo Glock in the all-yellow Deutsche Post colours, but there is our pole sitter, David. We're about to go racing here.
Marco Wittmann then sits and waits. As soon as the last man is in place, Christian Vitoris, there will be a green flag at the back. Round 3 of DTM. He's ready to go.
Here we go then, DTM for 2014 as we continue. We're just outside Budapest in the Hungaroring. As the engine notes rise, the lights go out. Glock gets a good start, so too does Marco Wittmann, who's going to cover off that front line. Jamie Green being hounded there. So Marco Wittmann, I think, has done just enough to get ahead of Timo Glock. Brilliant start from Timo Glock as they go into turn 1. Marco Wittmann leads.
Have a look at Spengler because he's up to 4th round the outside. Tombe made a slow start and got mugged, and also slow away was Miguel Molina from 3rd on the grid, and he's gone backwards as Glock tries to have a go at Wittmann. He needs to make the move early while the field is compacted. In 3rd place is Da Costa, so BMW's 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and off goes Jamie Green. Farfus has made a slow getaway, and Paffett spins in the pack.
So Scheider off as well. We saw Scheider going into the gravel there, and Gary Paffett turned around. So Wittmann is still leading from Timo Glock. There is the recovering Gary Paffett. This weekend goes from bad to worse for him. He had a torrid time in qualifying, and there's more offs.
Ekstrom round wide. I think he took Tomczyk with him as the 2 leaders then accelerate towards us. It's BMW's 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Mike Rockenfeller's on a bit of a mission at the moment as well as he tries to work his way through the ranks. Out of the chicane, runs a bit wide up onto the curb. Farfus has had a dreadful start from 5th. He's gone backwards, hasn't he, in the pack there?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Farfus doing his level best to try and make up now from that dismal start. So Wittmann from Glock, and here come the 1, 2, 3 then. It's Wittmann, it's Glock, and it's Antonio Felix da Costa. And, well, what about this for BMW?
Spengler 4th, but under attack. Look, he's lost the place in the background because up on the inside is the recovering Miguel Molina. He didn't make a great start, but he's gone 4th. 5th is Spengler, 6th is Maxime Martin, so 5 out of the top 6 are BMWs. Molina at the moment sort of having this sole role, isn't he, as the Audi representative up there against the hordes of BMWs around him.
So as one lap is completed, we're watching the remainder of the pack then come through. And Vitoris there we can see, but this is our race leader, Marco Wittmann, then it's Timo Glock, then it's Antonio Felix da Costa. And now Martin loses a place there, David.
Coming out of turn 1, so Maxime Martin drops back. That's going to put him behind the recovering Mortara as they drop downhill. So Edo Mortara in the 2nd of the Audis. Then Mike Rockenfeller, who's worked his way up past Matthias Ekstrom off the grid, hasn't he? So he's gained track position there. As up front, the gap at the end of lap 1 was 6/10, Wittmann to Glock. In 3rd place is Antonio Felix da Costa, and Gary Paffett into the pits, perhaps with damage, a legacy of being turned around at turn 2.
Wow, and what a shame that is to see one of the former champions out. Let's see that replay. And there's Farfus and Scheider, and that's where Paffett gets turned around. Couldn't quite see how that happened, did you?
I didn't, but what I want to see is turn 1. I want to know why Farfus was that far back anyway. From 6th on the grid, he must have made a dreadful start. to have lost that many places already. This is Vittorius' view. Have a look at Paffett because he gets on the outside. Vittorius gets into Joey Hand, who gets into Paffett.
Well, there we have it. And we'll see it even better now, won't we, from this on board. So Paul di Resta on the very right-hand side of your picture there, and that was Scheider, who was recovering from the off, so we didn't quite see the Paffett going round, did we? Okay, so turn 13 is where we're at the moment. Then it's uphill towards turn 14, which is a right-hander then onto the start-finish straight here at the Hungaroring.
The race leader has gone over the timing line, Marco Wittmann, as you look at Mike Rockenfeller, who is under attack coming up towards the line. The gap now between Wittmann and Glock is 1.3 seconds. Glock busy defending from his teammate Da Costa. This is Robert Wickens' view in the Mercedes as he comes across the timing line. And a challenge is made there, look, because on the inside line, Mortara tries to get up and past Spengler going into turn 1. We'll have to wait and see the cars coming down to turn 2 to see whether he's done it or not. But Mortara looked as though he had the line for the corner. He has. He's gone through. So Eduardo Mortara moves himself up then now into 5th place.
So Rocky now with Maxime Martin ahead, and Mike Rockenfeller on lap 2 of this DTM race here in the Hungaroring, being led by Marco Wittmann, 1.3 to the advantage over second place Timo Glock. On board with Robert Wickens now as we watch Mike Rockenfeller all over the back of Maxime Martin, trying to find a way around the Maxime Martin BMW. There they come into shot now. Just keep your eyes on Mike Rockenfeller. Now he's in a position here where he's hunting and being hunted as well, David Addison.
And don't forget that Rockenfeller is on the option tyre, so is Robert Wickens. Maxime Martin, who is the second placed of those on the prime tyre, has a tyre that isn't as quick in this part of the race, so he's got to try and defend for all he's worth. But Rockenfeller should have a quicker car under him thanks to those option tyres. Maxime Martin currently then is running in 7th place. He's dropping away from that leading group, although the best placed, there he is, Bruno Spengler. He is the best placed of those that are on the prime Hankook tyre. And that's going to be fascinating to see come the pit window how much time he's lost as Wickens has a look on the inside of Rockenfeller, and oh no you don't, says the reigning champion.
Around turn 13 they go then. Really, really exciting is this battle. And DRS enabled now, David. Robert Wickens there takes a different line to Mike Rockenfeller now. Tries to set himself up as they go down the start-finish straight. And look at that. With the benefit of the DRS, bosh. Job done.
And Martin has just been warned about exceeding the track limits as well, so not a great lap for him. He loses track position, and there, look, challenging under braking as well is Paul di Resta. He should do it. He's on the option tyre. He goes through. Martin Tomczyk is on the option tyre as well. So you see now how these tyres work. We're going to have the reverse of this late in the race when everybody switches onto the other tyre, and in theory those that lose out in part 1 should come good in part 2 of the race.
So a replay of the start, and the front row really seemed to get away a lot better. Timo Scheider bogged down, didn't he? No, that wasn't Timo Scheider, that was Tombe.
Look at Farfus, he gets away well, but then, as he goes up through the gears, seemed to lose out. He was off the line okay, but yeah, that's where it started to go wrong for Farfus. Tombe I'd spotted already going backwards in the pack. He'd lost out. Spengler made a very good start. And Farfus, yes, you see, he's lost position already, then he gets forced out a bit wide. It all conspired against him. That's why he was so far down the pack by turn 2.
Jamie Green gets hung out to dry there by Edo Mortara, who we're on board with. There's Mike Rockenfeller dicing through the pack there, and Mortara goes right to the outside, doesn't he, to try and go the way around of Augusto Farfus, and seeing it from an onboard camera angle as well. Very, very exciting start. We did fear for what could happen in turn 1, but thankfully not too much went on there. Little bit of panel rubbing there, as we can see from being on board. There is Bruno Spengler. That a replay of the earlier move. And this a replay of Rocky getting past Maxime Martin down the start-finish straight.
Timo Glock has just done the fastest lap of the race. Now this is Bruno Spengler, who is leading the prime class, as it were, about to lose a place to Mike Rockenfeller, who lines him up to have a go on the inside down to turn 1. Behind as well is Robert Wickens, who wants to go through, but at this stage of the race on these tyres there's not much Spengler can do because Rockenfeller has a quicker car. He goes through up on the inside, and that's now going to put Mike Rockenfeller into the top 6, and he's absolutely flying at the moment. And now look, Wickens comes up to have a nibble on the inside at turn 2. Easy past that.
Yeah, very much so. And Robert Wickens we go on board with, as we can see Mike Rockenfeller just ahead from that camera. There is Mike Rockenfeller, and Wickens then, they've done that job and got past Bruno Spengler. So the after-start ranking on the left-hand side of your screen, you can see there who's gone up, who's gone down, and who has stayed in their same position that they started in. And Wittmann and Glock, 2 of those. And Wittmann, 1.4 seconds to the good now.
Absolutely right. Marco Wittmann, who has raced for BMW not just in the DTM this year, but also in the Z4 in GT racing last year. He was part of the Mark VDS, very successful GT3 campaign, as of course was Maxime Martin, and they did many a mile between them in the Z4s. So you've got at the moment Wittmann leading by 1.4 seconds over Timo Glock. Now Timo Scheider has done the best of anybody in Sector 1 as he's hunting down Martin Tomczyk. Wittmann with clear road ahead has just done the best of anybody in Sector 2. There is Bruno Spengler, who's having to make his car very wide to keep De Resta and Tomczyk at bay, because Spengler, still the best place of those on the harder tyre, is really struggling now to maintain track position, and he can't afford to lose too many places or too much time heading to the pit stop window.
And that pit stop window coming up later on in the race, of course, but there we can see Paul de Resta then is a little bit further back from Bruno Spengler than probably he would like to be. Maybe he needed a little bit more grunt, a little bit more traction out, but de Resta I don't think is going to be able to do it on this occasion. So there is Bruno Spengler in the black BMW bank machine. And de Resta, of course, under pressure as well, as there's a bold move from Tomczyk there, who goes up the inside of de Resta, and Timo Scheider's going to go through as well. And de Resta hung out to dry there, loses 2 places.
And Scheider's got the momentum to challenge Tomczyk on the inside. Has he at turn 2? Audi drivers past and present. Scheider versus Tomczyk, who is still under attack. Timo Scheider, frustrated like Tomczyk for losing lap times yesterday for track limits, is on the back of the BMW. He can't do it at the moment, and this takes a bit of pressure off Spengler, because Tomczyk now has got to defend from the Audi, hasn't he?
You're absolutely right. What this means is that Spengler just gets a moment's respite, doesn't he, from the charges that was going on behind him. And let's see that in replay. So there is where Tomczyk gets alongside de Resta, and well, there was contact there for sure. Don't think it's damaged de Resta's car, but that did force de Resta out wide, and in the process de Resta losing out to Timo Scheider as well.
Gary Paffett, incidentally, still in the pit garage, so there must have been damage caused or as the result of that contact, and so he is in the garage and I fear out of the race, as now Martin Tomczyk lines up Spengler on the inside. Now Spengler's got to manage this well, hasn't he? He can let the BMW go, but he can't afford to let Scheider have a nibble at him, and so Spengler has done it well. Tomczyk for BMW goes through. Scheider for Audi mysteriously finds that Spengler's car grows in width and he can't find a way around on the outside there, and he gets right into the back of him at turn 14. That unsettles Spengler, but I think in fairness to Scheider, he backed out of it. He could have capitalised on that, and he didn't for fear of penalty. And so as they come over the timing line, nose to tail they run, still 9th and 10th. Spengler ahead of Scheider, with de Resta lining up behind them. Now Scheider pulls to the inside with the DRS helping him. Look at it, bouncing and bouncing as he breaks for the corner. De Resta goes for the inside as well, but Spengler defending well here.
Yeah, Bruno Spengler having to do that very, very defensive driving. Timo Scheider has gone through, and now Paul de Resta does it as well. So de Resta, who needs to make up moves, having lost out earlier on. Paul de Resta in the Mercedes now does manage to get past the BMW of Bruno Spengler.
This is the replay. Timo Scheider up the inside as they head down towards turn 1 on the bumpy part of the circuit. Flame spits out of the side, and he makes that move. So Scheider up into 9th place.
So that in replay, you can see that there. And Paul de Resta had a go as well. But this was Bruno Spengler at his absolute best here, as he just made that car so very wide. He denied Paul de Resta the opportunity of doing it there. Of course, a little bit later on, de Resta was able to do so. Okay, lap 6 of 41. Wittmann is leading with a 1.6 second margin over Timo Glock. Mike Rockefeller in screen there for you in P6. Then it's Robert Wickens, who is P7. Then we see Tomczyk, and there is Bruno Spengler. Bruno Spengler, who lost places during the last lap, of course. He, as David has said, the best running on the standard tyres. So there, Bruno Spengler rounds the turn 14 and heads for the timing line. And it's Wittmann, Glock, Da Costa, Molina, Mortara, Rockefeller, Wickens, Tomczyk, Timo Scheider, de Resta, and Spengler now P11.
This is a little bit finger in the air, but at the moment, depending on whether you've got a clear road or you're involved in a battle, the prime tyre is 2 seconds a lap slower than the option. Now, Bruno Spengler last time lapped 4 seconds slower,
right,
because he's busy defending and being put offline. So it's not, as I say, it's a bit finger in the air. But Maxime Martin was last time only 2 seconds shy of a Wittmann lap. Those that are on the option at the moment can do a 1:38. The best anybody's doing currently on the Prime is a 1:40. I offer you this to factor it into the second stint of the race.
Which is, of course, where this race reverses, doesn't it?
Exactly,
almost.
Yeah.
Okay, P13 then is Adrian Tombay. And Tombay is being hustled by Joey Hand at the moment in the Crown Plaza liveried car. So Tombay doing everything he can to make that Playboy machine as wide as possible. And, well, Joey Hand gets right alongside and he's gone through.
And again, it's the difference in the tyre, isn't it? Because he's on the option. Tombay is the third place of those on the Prime tyre, so he drops back a place. And behind him, somebody else that is on the Prime is Nico Muller. So people that had a good grid position have dropped back. How is Farfus getting on? He is down in 22nd place, and I'm not convinced all is well with that car. I think Farfus may have suffered a bit of damage in the first couple of corner skirmishes, because you'd expect him to be making some sort of progress by now.
There we're seeing a replay of, well, Joey Hand getting it absolutely right out of that chicane, and Tombay not able to defend against that challenge and charge from Joey Hand. There's a race leader going through. There is P2. Marco Wittmann sets the fastest lap, a 1:38.105 compared to quali laps, David.
They're going to be slower because they're on a heavier fuel load and all that, but the times are coming down. Qualifying, the best lap that we got was a Wittmann lap, which was a 36.7.
Right.
Shouldn't think anyone's going to get near that, but if we can get it to a high 37 in the race with a low fuel load towards the end of the option tyre life, that will be pretty good. Gary Paffett, sad to say, out of the race. Let's hear from him now.
Who looks absolutely furious. You were shaking your head looking at your car. Was it just bad luck that Joey Hand knocked you out, or what happened?
It's not bad luck, it's just bad driving. I mean, he just drove straight into me. I've never seen so much damage on a car that's just been hit by another car. It's ridiculous, it's dangerous. So if he doesn't get a penalty, I don't see any point in having rules, because it's stupid what he did.
And do you think there's going to be any consequence in regards to Joey Hand, or is it now for you really just bad luck?
No, it's not bad luck at all. He's an idiot. It's a stupid move. I mean, the speed he was carrying, it was ridiculous compared to everybody else. So if there isn't consequences, then I say there's no point in having rules, because what he did is stupid. So.
All right, thank you very much, Gary Paffett. Clear words from Gary. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Verena. Well, it's not very often you see Gary Paffett so angry, so animated, and here he is saying that the move from Joey Hand was stupid and that he should get a penalty for that. And what was interesting is he has not seen so much damage on a car that has been hit. So, well, clearly it did do some severe damage, because it's had to retire the car, David. But it's not very often you see Gary that angry.
And in these very PC days, it's not often you hear a driver be so outspoken as well, and about a rival. There's nothing on our timing screen to say that Joey Hand is under investigation, so whether Mercedes will take this to the stewards themselves, we'll have to find out. Joey Hand, for the moment, runs in 12th place after his aggressive first lap, but certainly Gary Paffett massively aggrieved.
Yes, and justifiably so, perhaps. There doesn't appear to be anything wrong at all with Joey Hand's car, does there? In terms of, you know, all I'm doing is picking up on what Gary said there about the damage that's been inflicted upon his car. Well, you know, we're not seeing any damage at all on Joey Hand's, because he's, you know, he's driving, he's in P12, he's overtaking cars, so, you know, it seems almost odd that there can be one car so damaged and one car with not a scratch on it.
Indeed so, and Joey Hand, just because he's on the option tyres, got ahead of Bruno Spengler. Now, Spengler is being caught by Maxime Martin. This is the interesting part now, because there, look, you've got the two BMWs effectively nose to tail for the lead of what you might call Class B, for those on the Prime tyre. And earlier on, there were many cars between the two of them. Now, Spengler is, only a couple of lengths up on Maxime Martin. And if Martin can get ahead of Spengler before the pit stops, then this becomes interesting.
Well, as Gary was saying, or Verena was saying to Gary, rotten luck. As far as Gary's concerned, it's nothing to do with rotten luck. As we watch Bruno Spengler and Maxime Martin just for a moment, but there is our race leader, BMW, and it's Marco Wittmann, who is 2.6 seconds to the good up the road from Timo Glock. So as far as I'm concerned, David, Marco is doing everything that he needed to do in the early stages of this race.
Yes, he's not done anything wrong, and he's built a modest gap of 2.6 seconds. As you look at Timo Scheider here, who is battling with Martin Tomczyk. This has just changed, in fact, for 8th place. Scheider has just got himself up past the BMW. We saw them nose to tail a few laps ago. Now we've had that change. Scheider is getting away, having taken the place. Look, he's just starting to gap the BMW.
So Timo Scheider there in the all-black machine. And this is how he did it.
That car of Scheider's doesn't half bounce around under braking on that inside line, does it? We saw it earlier on in the race. Through he goes. In fairness to Tomczyk, he gave him racing room. He knew there was a quicker car coming up, and through he has gone.
Okay, our race leader Marco Wittmann then. And there is Timo Scheider. Oh!
Who's got a big problem, as though something has broken.
Something has gone terribly wrong with Timo Scheider's car. Just saw it whale-tail, didn't we? The back end let go. And Timo Scheider with some component failure on that car, David.
Had we seen the start of that when it started to judder on those 2 laps under heavy braking going down towards turn 1? Maybe
Possibly
it's connected to that. But something has broken, and Timo Scheider then is out of the race. Or did he whack the curb? Well, something in the steering or the suspension, because it wouldn't turn fully. He had to go up the escape road. He'd already lost the place to Tomczyk.
Yeah.
That was the start of it. So he ran wide over the grass, lost the place before the chicane, got back on the road, and it just does not want to go in a straight line, does it? So the black Audi is out of the race. Left rear wheels wobbling by the look of it.
Yes.
Interesting. What's caused that? Was that contact somewhere that we didn't see? Well, the team rush into action to try if Scheider brings the car back to put a new wheel on it, but I'm not sure whether he's still moving or not. He has not gone through the end of the second sector. There he is, race done.
Oh. Now, we're keeping a weather eye on our message screen as well. Motivated perhaps by what Gary Paffett was saying, partly, but also because of this track limits issue. And interestingly, car number 17 has just been warned at turn 4.
Yes, which is Timo Glock, the man that's running in second place. There he is. That third battle's coming alive, isn't it? There, look, Da Costa has got Molina right up behind him now. So Miguel Molina is catching onto the back of the BMW. Pit window opens at 14 laps. The maximum you can do on the option tyre is 19. Option is better than primed, quicker, so you want to do those 19 laps. So those that have started on them have still got a few laps to run yet. Another 7 laps on them as they come across the timing line now. That gap, third to fourth, only 0.3 of a second. Is Molina close enough? Yes, he is. He pulls to the inside line. Is he going to be able to go through? He is. The Audi bags third under braking for turn 1.
Well, Molina, perhaps it could be said, deserves some luck, doesn't he? And Molina there, as we see Timo Scheider, who shakes his head. And that was interesting. There's something broken on the rear wing there. Timo Scheider was picking up, which clearly absolutely nothing to do with the problem with the wheel. But it makes me wonder how that happened, David.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the line he was on when we saw him on the grass. Had there been contact, but it was the other side from where Tomczyk would have been. So, yeah, plot thickens about that. I'm sure when he gets back to the pit lane, Farina will go and find out.
Here's the battle for P9 then between Joey Hand and Paul Di Resta. So we continue with this DTM race at the Hungaroring. Downhill they go before this uphill section. Joey Hand is ahead of Paul Di Resta. So Joey Hand then goes up to P9 and Di Resta then down to P10, and this is how it was done in the most obvious place for overtaking here, David, the Hungaroring. Joey Hand up the inside there of Paul Di Resta.
Yeah, again, the room was given to him. There was the DRS benefit, and you've got the 2 drivers on the option tyre as the leaders come across the timing line. We've now done 13 laps, so the pit window's opening is imminent. Over the timing line has gone Marco Wittmann, 3.5 seconds to the good, and he drives like a DTM veteran, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Of course, he was, before coming into the DTM as driver, he was official DTM test driver for BMW, the Ice Watch liveried car. There is Timo Glock, who is in P2. So it's Wittmann, Glock, Molina. Then it is Antonio Felix, Da Costa, Mortara, Rocky is P6, then it's Vickins. And Tomczyk is P8, Hand is P9. We saw that overtake from Joey Hand getting past Paul de Resta is P10. Then it's Spengler. So once again, the race leader then through the chicane. Not takes too much of the sausage curbs there.
He's out on his own, isn't he? Timo Glock, likewise, is in no man's land because he's got a similar-sized gap over Miguel Molina, but Molina now is lapping quicker than Glock, so the gap second to third might well creep down before we get to the pit window and the pit stops themselves, which will be in the middle of that section of the race. There is Bruno Spengler, who is still the best placed of those on the prime tyre. Now, where is Maxime Martin? He's fallen back a little bit, but he's still second in that queue, as it were, behind Spengler. Tombay runs third, then Muller fourth, and Jamie Green is currently the fifth of those drivers on the prime tyre. Now, we have the pit window to open now, but there is no point anybody coming in just yet because you still have got some laps left in your 19 on the option tyre, so you may as well keep going to the very end on that set.
So Wittmann, Glock, Molina, Da Costa, Mortara, the top five, and there is our race leader. We see the back end of that Ice Watch car. There is Timo Glock. Then it's Molina, Da Costa, Mortara. So pit window open then. And of course those drivers that started, as you've been saying for the entire first part of this race, those drivers that started on the option tyres are going to want to get the maximum out of them, and they're going to need to do that, aren't they?
Exactly right. Second and third is still worth watching as well, incidentally, because Molina is lapping quicker by half a second than Timo Glock, so he's bringing that gap down. It was 2.5, but it's going to be much, much closer by the time we get to the pit stops themselves. Behind fourth is Da Costa and fifth is Mortara, and this is the battle you're looking at now. That's only 9/10 of a second as well. Still, a prime tyre is about 3 seconds, 2.5 to 3 seconds slower than an option at the moment.
Right. And of course, all those that are on the standard tyres get the opportunity to run the option tyre. And I just wonder if that margin, David, of advantage that the option tyres bring with a lower fuel load in the second half of the race might make a small difference.
And were we to have a safety car, of course, as well, then you're absolutely in the box seat. But it's unlikely we'd get that here because of the amount of F1-style runoff that there is and the access roads that help to hoik a car out of the way if needs be. So there is Da Costa. He runs in fourth place. And Mortara behind him. It was 0.9 of a second last time. Further up the road, Molina has just taken another 3/10 out of Timo Glock, so second and third are getting closer, and it's 4/10 now. Da Costa to Mortara, who run fourth and fifth, and it could well change, Dave.
Yes, here comes up the inside then, executed absolutely perfectly. And Antonio Felix Da Costa there losing out a place. We're on lap 15 of 41, and Antonio Felix Da Costa just has another little look, but is never going to be able to do that. Wow. Well, there have been plenty of overtakes, David, in the... and this is what it's like on board with Edo Mortara as he did it there. And once again, Antonio Felix Da Costa, gave him plenty of room. No point doing otherwise, was there?
No, not at this stage of the race. So we've had that reversal between them. Bruno Spengler has just gone across the line, and he is 36.7 seconds back. So that's... Sorry, I'll tell you a lie. He's 44 seconds back now from Marco Wittmann. So that is the margin between the leader and the best of those on the prime tyre. It's going up all the time, of course. There is Marco Wittmann.
So Wittmann is going to stay out there for as long as possible, isn't he?
Yeah, and Spengler effectively would have to go to lap 22 in order to maximise 19 laps at the end. So that means you're going to have a crossover where you've got Wittmann on new primes and Spengler on worn primes. And it'll be interesting to see what the lap times pan out like at that point.
Okay. So we're watching our race leader, Marco Wittmann. The analyst alongside me, David Addison there, trying his level best. I mean, back to Oschersleben, you got it so very right. So here comes Marco Wittmann. And ready to turn into turn one as we look at Mr. Abder on the pit perch. And, well, Augusto's garage and beginning to ready themselves, aren't they?
They are.
Both the Crown Plaza logos and the Castrol Edge logos, which means it's Augusto Farfus and Joey Hand. There is Marco Wittmann. We're on lap 16 of 41 DTM here at the Hungaroring. And Wittmann with a 4.5 second advantage over this man who is in second place, which is Timo Glock. And in first then, here comes Joey Hand. But crucially, David, one of the Deutsche Post runners running down the pit lane at the moment.
Good spot, Dave Richardson. So there could be a penalty looming as Joey Hand comes in, and that's at the end of lap 16, and that's early.
Yes.
And that makes one think that the option tyre can't go to 19. It might just be losing its edge. So dice rolled here by BMW to put that car onto the prime tyre early.
Well, we will see what happens with Joey Hand. He's back out once again. Our race leader we pick up, and there is our P2 driver Timo Glock, and still maintained at 4.5 seconds between Wittmann and Glock, and then further couple of seconds back to Molina. On board then with Augusto Farfus. Well, we saw the guys coming out of the garage getting ready, didn't we?
Yeah, indeed so. So they've turned both cars through on the same lap, haven't they? The Racing Bart Mampé team.
Where are the tyres? Where are the tyres, David Addison?
What is going on?
They've done the fronts, but there's nothing going on the... Oh. And now here comes Antonio Felix da Costa into the pit lane as well. Well, that was a real botched stop, wasn't it?
It was either they weren't expecting or they were trying to look for damage or something because of his dramas on the first lap, but that's cost him a lap, I fear, as we've got then now back into the race, Antonio Felix da Costa. Now, has been the highest placed thus far that has come in, but again, that's relatively early after 17 laps.
Well, you know, what can we read into this? You know, maybe the options are not lasting or performing as we would like.
Yeah, I mean...
or for as long as we thought they would.
And there's a setup thing as well, because we've seen BMW's pit earlier than the other brands out of all of this. Now, there is da Costa, who has got himself back on track ahead of Tomczyk. So that puts him into 7th place, heading uphill. Martin Tomczyk, former champion, running a little bit wide there, going out of turn 4. OK, Wittmann is on lap 18, and he's 4.7 seconds to the good. He's 48 seconds up on Spengler. Indeed,
48.2 seconds up on Spengler. And here is where Timo Glock is being caught by Miguel Molina. So Timo Glock in the Deutsche Post yellow BMW. Then it is Miguel Molina in the Audi there, the Audi Sport liveried car. He is really beginning to hustle Timo Glock now. So head up towards turn 1. And Molina, is he going to dive up the inside? Well, Timo Glock covers that line, doesn't he? So Molina has to go to the outside, which is not going to work, I don't think. Was Glock's exit compromised? Maybe. Molina gets alongside him here. It's a drag down to the next turn. They are absolutely side by side, but I think Molina has done enough. No, he hasn't. Timo Glock locks up, and Molina runs wide as well. Now Molina goes through.
He's done it, and that was all because Glock made a small error and ran wide, and Molina got the cut through. So he's gone through, and he's up now into 2nd place. And look at him pulling away, as there is Rockenfeller, who on lap 18 has gone onto the primes, and Tomczyk is in as well. So he goes onto the prime tyre on lap 18, and Molina now needs to get as much real estate between him and Timo Glock as he possibly can.
Okay, we're on lap 18 of 41, as we saw that all happen in front of our very eyes there. Timo Glock tried to cover it off, and Timo Glock got just a bit wayward there, as we see a replay of that now, and that's where the contact was made. Lock up there from Glock, and I guess he was hoping that Molina was going to run wide with him. What Molina did was get the switch back, and that was enough, wasn't it? He was able to go through then, and Glock couldn't defend. He couldn't cover off that line.
Glock's mistake, brake too late and scrabbled round the corner, but good driving by Molina. Quickly worked out what he had to do to, as you say, use that switch back. And Wittmann's team ready for the race leader then at the end of lap 19. This is we're going to have everybody else on the option tyre into the pit lane. There is the race leader, and as he comes in, he's 49.4 seconds ahead of Spengler.
Right, Marco Wittmann, and this is one that they need to get absolutely right, isn't it? So Molina comes in as well. So too Glock. So diving in now. Wittmann, the clock is on. 3 second stop. Oh, out ahead of Timo Glock, pulling into his garage area. Molina a 3.1 stop.
And he stays ahead of Glock, so he's kept track position.
Yes.
So it's Wittmann, Molina, Glock, as they were when they came into the pit lane. Mortara has pitted, and he's got right onto the back of Thibaut
Yes,
Glock on
he
the pit
has.
stops. That is the new battle now that we have Glock versus Mortara for third place of those that have made a stop.
So we're on lap 19 of 41 then. And Timo Glock then, who has been in and done the stop. So BMW versus Audi here. Timo Glock in the Deutsche Post colours. We're on board with Edo Mortara now as he's hounding Timo Glock. Takes a slightly tighter line in there, does Edo Mortara. Timo Glock, of course, has raced here at the Hungaroring in Formula One. Over the curb goes Edo Mortara through a fast section, this little S complex, if you like, which so many of these corners, like many other circuits, David, that a mistake you may make in one corner can have an effect on the exit, the entrance to the next, and it has a consequence for 2 or 3 thereafter, doesn't it?
Especially this section now, because the momentum you need is through turn 11. 12 is important, 13 you get wrong as well, and you're in real strife because you climb uphill, and this is steeper than it looks, believe me. Edo Mortara is on the back of Timo Glock, who just gets the drive out of the corner. You get this corner wrong and you're completely compromised for the pit straight, at the end of which there's a chance to overtake. So Edo Mortara not close enough to Timo Glock to think about attacking. Wittmann is still in the lead of the race, 5.1 seconds ahead of Timo Glock. So not only are those drivers that started on the prime leading their own battle, they're still in the overall situation. So this is third place outright. Glock versus Mortara, who had a cheeky look at the inside, but there was no way through there. What we need to start seeing, of course, next time through is a flying lap for those that are on the new prime tyre relative to those on that old set. Glock almost running wide again. He's under pressure. He's under massive attack now from Edo Mortara, who has got the speed, hasn't he? The Audis are coming good.
You're absolutely right, they are. Edo Mortara all over the back of Timo Glock now, and Timo having to metaphorically put his elbows out from the BMW then. So as we continue to watch this battle, we're just short of half distance in this DTM race at the Hungaroring. Break there from Timo Glock through the S there, avoiding the sausage curbs. Edo Mortara here takes plenty of curb there. Timo Glock just getting a little bit away now. And, well, the challenge from Mortara just goes away and allows Glock just a millisecond of breath, doesn't it? And there is Glock once again as... and there the Audi colours of Edo Mortara. We're on board with Edo Mortara, looking through his windscreen now as we go around turn 13, heading up, and this very uphill section as well. You don't necessarily appreciate the uphill stretch here into turn 14. Then it is the start-finish straight. Timo Glock now, lap 21 of 41. So we see Molina go through, and now here comes Timo Glock and Edo Mortara. I don't think it's close enough.
Down towards turn 1, and although next time around you can expect people to change from the prime to the option, bear in mind that an old set is at the moment looking 1 second a lap slower than a new set. So Spengler and the others losing time. Now they come in. So this is everybody else into the pit lane. And as Bruno Spengler comes down the pit lane, he's 35.1 seconds back. So, of course, the gap came down a little bit. It'll now go up once again because of this pit stop. It'll inflate. So at the end of the next lap, we can see what it really is and where we go from there.
Okay, so there's Tombe out. We just saw Maxime Martin. Right, here comes Bruno Spengler.
So down through turn 1 go those that have just left the pit lane. Spengler, Martin behind him, and therefore we're now on to lap 22 of the race. Those that have just changed onto the option tyre can run to the end. At the end of this next lap, we'll see what the gap is between Wittmann and this man Spengler, who has stayed ahead of Maxime Martin, so he leads, if you like, Class B, the unofficial Class B of those that have changed tyres. And there is Marco Wittmann. You can see what the gap is. He's at the end of the lap as Spengler is just about a third of the way around. And now then we can start to look at what that gap is. So now 22 laps are in the book. It's a 41 lap race, and over the timing line goes Marco Wittmann with in second place Miguel Molina, and the gap is coming down between those two by a couple of tenths of a second anyway. In third spot, you've got Glock. Mortara is still running with him, but at the moment, as Mortara lines up to go to the inside, Glock moves across and covers. Mortara hits him, turns him out wide. He muscles a way through, and that, I think, is a case to answer.
Okay, so, well, we saw that coming almost, didn't we? So on board now with Timo Glock, who was lost out there. We'll get this in replay. And on board as well. Here it comes. And there you can see the result of the little nerf there where Timo Glock just got unsettled. Here we see it from a different angle, and there was where he dived right up to the inside. And he was well on the curbs. Edo Mortara here, well, I suspect the race stewards will be taking a look at that. And you can see there the reaction from Timo Glock from inside the cockpit. Well, we await the message screen and see what happens there. Right, here comes our race leader, Marco Wittmann, who, what's he got? 4.8 over Molina from last time around. So he's DTM here at the 4.3 kilometer Hungaroring circuit. Around turn 13 goes Marco Wittmann. There you can see a little bit better just how uphill this section is into turn 14 before it is the start-finish straight here. And there is our P2 driver. So there you can see on screen, 51 seconds between Wittmann and Spengler. There is Spengler. Behind Paul de Resta at the moment. Will dispose of him pretty quickly, I suspect. So in the all-black BMW bank colours, Bruno Spengler here with Paul de Resta ahead in the AMG Mercedes. And not huge opportunities for overtaking here at the Hungaroring circuit. And around turn 13 goes Bruno Spengler, right in the boot of Paul de Resta, jolly near, and as he tries to dive up the inside to take him around turn 14. Now is when Spengler will for sure do it. There is Paul de Resta with the Mercedes and the BMW machine of Bruno Spengler, and the Mercedes seem to have the grunt in the uphill section, but now is where Spengler is going to dive up the inside surely, and Paul de Resta of course gives him room to go through, so Bruno Spengler ticks Paul de Resta off the box.
Maxime Martin has just done the fastest lap of the race. Now, of course, those drivers on the option tire now are quicker, but they've got to work their way through traffic. And Bruno Spengler on that last lap only caught by 1/10 of a second, so he's losing time. This was Glock getting it wrong and losing out to Mortara, so we've had the change for third place. From earlier on, Mortara clatters up the inside and goes through, so Timo Glock getting in the wars in this race, isn't he? But he's not very amused about that rather physical way that Mortara came past him. And Mortara then up into third position. Now, as you can see, Timo Glock's car perhaps a drop into the clutches of Antonio Felix da Costa. The way that Spengler has started this stint suggests that he's going to run out of laps.
Right.
I'll keep monitoring it, but I'm not sure there's enough of the race left unless Spengler really starts to hack away at more than 2 seconds a lap, and some of that's going to be down to traffic. So we're looking at some of the highlights of the race. Joey Hand and Augusto Farfus being amongst the early pit callers. See, Nico Müller has just done the best of anybody in the first sector, so clearly those on the option tire with a lighter fuel load now are starting to work well, but is it going to be enough? That's what we need to see. So we'll start looking at a Spengler lap relative to a Wittmann lap, but of course Spengler still has to work his way through traffic.
So some of these shots in replay for you. And the team congratulate themselves. And on board with Timo Glock. Pit lane ranking to the left of your screen there. Verline, Wickens, Vitoris, Spengler, de Resta, Hand, Tomczyk, Wittmann, Molina, Glock, Mortara, Felix da Costa, top 12 in the pit lane ranking.
Okay, Spengler lapping at the moment in the bracket that's bringing him down by about 2 seconds a lap on Wittmann, but he's going to run out of laps, so he needs to do something better than that. There is Marco Wittmann making his way up towards turn 14. Now things at the Hungaroring are starting to become a little bit more overcast, and there is a report that there could even be some rain in the next 10 minutes. And if we were to get that, and in fairness, there has been the prediction of a storm in some weather forecasts over the last few days. If we were to get that, that turns everything upside down. But for the moment, those that are on the option tyre, understandably, are the quicker. But I think they've lost too much time early on. But if we were to get rain, then everything starts to change.
Yes. So there is Spengler, who is the man that's really, really having to battle here, and David Addison keeping a very, very close eye, not only on his lap times, but sector times as well from Bruno Spengler in the BMW bank car. Can see just ahead of Spengler is Joey Hand. There's Joey Hand going through in the Crown Plaza colours, and there is Bruno Spengler in the familiar BMW bank black colours. There's Joey Hand in P9. Then it is Bruno Spengler, who is currently P10, 25 of 41 laps.
Okay, he's just lapped 2 seconds, 2.2 seconds faster than Wittmann, and Spengler has just done the absolute fastest lap of the race. So he's on it, but the gap is 47 seconds after 25 laps. By the end of 41 laps, on that rate, he'd be 15 seconds back, and that ain't enough.
No, it's not enough. So 1:38.005 then is the fastest lap from Bruno Spengler, but my mathematician alongside me here, who's working everything out as we go. Of course, there are other factors that will come into this also, but at the moment, we're thinking it's not going to be enough. Joey Hand just allows Spengler to run through. And I'm just taking a look outside the commentary booth at the skies, David, and our director saying that the reports are that the potential in around about 8 minutes now for perhaps some rain, and as you say, that would turn this on its head.
And the teams have been allowed to get the wet tyres ready. The boxes are open, as it were. This is Jamie Green's view. Now, he currently is in 16th place behind Matthias Ekström. They are now on the option tyre. There is Ekström in the Red Bull livery, running a little bit wide. Jamie Green, who carried those colours last year, is in the all-orange car and is looking very, very rapid at the moment indeed. Wittmann's last lap was a 1:40. Bruno Spengler was a 38, and next time around, because he's not yet completed the equivalent lap to Wittmann, we'll see what the time is. Nico Müller has just done 2 purple sectors, so the best lap of the race could go Nico Müller's way this time. It was like a mini qualifying session going on in the second half of the field, as they have to put in these blinding laps now. Spengler goes through, and he's brought it down to 45 seconds after 26 laps of the race, but he's still going to run out of time.
We're watching Jamie Green then as he reaches the crest of the uphill section of the start-finish straight and heads down now into that turn 1, as we can see the teams at work. BMW team RBM, they're in, and Audi with tyres already prepared. Well, who knows? It could throw, they say, a curved ball.
That's like a spanner in the works as well.
I think
it has the same
is.
effect.
Yes.
Well, there is Timo Scheider, thinking, hope it doesn't rain, I haven't got my hat. But sad to say for him, he's out of the race. Very, very disappointing season thus far for Timo Scheider. Right, here comes Wittmann then. This will be the end of lap 27. So we're anticipating a lead gap of 43 seconds over Spengler this time. If the pattern continues, he comes through. He is pulling away slightly from Molina now, so you can see that gap is going up to the eye. It is a 1:40.3 Molina's last lap, so it grows by 1/10 of a second. Spengler will be through shortly. Third and fourth go by. The physical Mortara ahead of Glock. Then Da Costa running in 5th place. Mike Rockenfeller is in 6th. Robert Wickens is 7th. There is Timo Glock, whose dander is up, as they say, having been muscled out of the way by the pointy-elbowed Edo Mortara. He wants to get that 3rd place back, and he won't be satisfied until he has done just that.
And, yep, he is on that charge to try and do that. When is Spengler going to cross the line? Right now. And where are we at in terms of our predictions?
Bang on cue, 27 laps done, 43 seconds back. It's 2 seconds a lap. By the end of the race, he could be, depending on whether this is the same level of tyre degradation all the way through, but on this evidence, he would be, as you see the place change. Joey Hand loses out to Nico Müller going into turn 1 for 12th place. He would end up 15 seconds behind the leader.
And Nico Müller sets the fastest lap at 1:37.556. Well, your predictions at the moment all working out, aren't they? Your computations, I should say.
We're getting there.
Yes.
We're getting there. The trouble is, it's not actually giving me much cause for optimism for Bruno Spengler for the race. It's still looking good for Marco Wittmann, especially as the further Spengler comes up the order, the harder it's going to be to get through traffic, because he's going to come up against people that do not want him to come through. And bear in mind as well, we're looking at BMW versus BMW here.
Yes.
What does the brand do?
Well, thankfully, that's not a decision you or I have to make, is it?
It's Jens Marquardt's call from the pit wall. There is Glock. Now, he's being caught by Da Costa, isn't he? They are teammates. The Deutsche Post versus Red Bull BMW M4s, but they're both run out of the MTech squad. This is Glock's view. Mortara is ahead. He comes up over the timing line. Wittmann has just done 28 laps of the race, and he's 4.5 seconds to the good now ahead of Miguel Molina. We're getting one or two more drivers being warned about track limits now, the most recent of them having been the Edo Mortara Audi, but it's all for track limits, not driving standards, interestingly. Picking up on Gary Pappett's point of earlier on. And just going back to that, he was very outspoken, as we said, about Joey Hand. I have it in my mind, and I'd love to see the replay again, that we'd worked out that it was Christian Vittorius that ran a bit deep into the corner and kind of triggered it. So maybe after Gary's had a look at another replay or two, he'll mellow a touch.
Perhaps so, and it's interesting that there's been absolutely no message on the screen about it. Okay, here comes Spengler, and once again, looking at your computations there, David Addison, and we throw them up on the screen here. The last 3 laps between Wittmann and Spengler.
It's coming down at 2 seconds a lap. It's not enough. He needs somehow for Wittmann to lose time, and there is Spengler getting himself up past Tomczyk, so that gives him now 8th place. So Martin Tomczyk goes through.
Is it feasible through your computations and from the information we're getting as well, Spengler could get on the podium?
Yes. By lap 41, he'll be 15 seconds behind, and at the moment, Mortara is 16 seconds behind Wittmann. So he can challenge for 3rd place. Third, I think, is as good as it will get for Spengler if things stay as they are, both in terms of tyre wear, lap times, and indeed weather.
Yes. Okay. So we're watching Bruno Spengler. We're at the Hungaroring for DTM 2014, the BMW bank car of Bruno Spengler then, who is currently, well, the lap times we've been bringing you every single lap, and the margin between Spengler and Marco Wittmann. And we don't think there's enough laps left in the race for Bruno Spengler to be able to challenge for the lead, as Timo Glock had a real lock up there, didn't he? He's got him in his target sights, hasn't he? Let's be truthful.
I think it's fair to say that Timo Glock is not amused with the way that Edo Mortara has driven. This battle is good as it is. It's going to be joined eventually, isn't it, by Bruno Spengler, who is wriggling his way through traffic. Spengler's next target is Robert Wickens.
And what Spengler can't afford to do is spend too much time caught up in this battle between Timo Glock and the others as well.
Yeah, absolutely right, and especially as they are BMWs but being run out of a different team. Spengler is a Schnitzer driver. These are the MTech cars. Robert Wickens, just a quick word, he's running 7th. I know it's an artificial 7th because of tyres and he will lose places by the end, but Robert Wickens for Mercedes, who haven't had a lot to cheer about this weekend, he's not doing a bad job at all, is he? He's a race winner in the DTM, and yes, he will drop down as the race comes to its conclusion, but for the moment he's having a pretty good job done here as Glock hangs on to his 4th place. Da Costa, I'm not convinced he's yet let off the leash to attack him. I think what they need to do is work together and try and, if they can, get ahead of Mortara.
Right. So there we see Timo Glock, Mortara ahead, and of course Antonio Felix da Costa behind. You can see the Red Bull livery of Antonio Felix da Costa as around turn 13 they go up towards turn 14. Turning into that now, and now the start finish straight here, lap 30 of 41. Wittmann, who leads and has, what's that, 4.1 over Molina.
So that's come down.
Yes.
It's come down. And we're waiting for Bruno Spengler to come through in a few moments' time, and the prediction would be on this lap, which is the end of lap 30, he should be about 37 seconds behind. His lap times actually are almost being matched by Maxime Martin, who is behind him. So Martin is in a big hurry. I said 37 seconds was the prediction. Spengler is 36.9 seconds away. Will you forgive me a 10th?
All right.
Forgive me a 10th. I'm not far off. So actually that's a little bit more encouraging for Spengler, because he's going slightly better now than the 2 seconds a lap, and that's what he needs to do. 2.5 would be ideal to get him a little bit further up the order before the end.
Okay. Well, this is going to be the fight, and this is what we are watching here. The BMW bank machine of Bruno Spengler, who on track is actually P8. but by dint of what has happened with the tyres, and of course those that have run the option tyres at the start of the race, and those that have been on the standard tyres, those roles are reversed as the tyres go around now, and Bruno Spengler is on the option tyres now, and he's going to run these, of course, to the end of the race, and it's whether he can get on terms and potentially challenge for a podium. We think the win is not possible. That is, of course, unless other external factors play into it.
Absolutely right. I mean, if Wittmann and Molina were to get themselves together and squabble, they'd hold each other up, but it's still a big gap between second and third because of this fight we've had between Mortara and Glock. So the two leaders have escaped. There is Spengler. He's on lap 31, so the gap should hover around the 35-second mark at the end of this between Wittmann, who leads the way, and Bruno Spengler, who is... sounds disparaging to call the best of the rest, but you know what I mean. He's the best of the second set of drivers now on the quicker tyre, and the lap time's underlining that the option tyre now is very much the one to have. There's Augusto Farfus, who's had a really miserable afternoon, and he's down in 20th place and effectively a lap down. He's about to go because there is the race leader. That is Wittmann.
And Wittmann is going to be up amongst those back marking cars very, very shortly. Okay, you're giving yourself another tick in the box there, David Addison, because you're right, aren't you?
Now we've got the gap down to 35 seconds between Wittmann and Spengler. There's a great little battle that's just going to cross the line, incidentally. Jamie Green, Matthias Ekstrom, Martin Tomczyk all running together. That's well worth watching for 12th place. Miguel Molina is losing a 10th a lap, so he does not seem to have the pace to go after Wittmann. Even though the gap has come down slightly on occasions, it's not consistent enough. Mortara is falling away behind, so the top two, I think, are pretty much there. It's for third place that the interest will be, and that is Spengler catching this train and working his way through. And even if BMW makes life easy for him to get past Acosta and Glock, there is still Edo Mortara's abnormally wide Audi up the front.
Yes, that isn't going to be easy, is it? So we will see. We'll be on that battle very, very soon. Edo Mortara, Timo Glock then P3 and P4, and well, as you say, Timo Glock has still got, you know, a note in his book with regards to Mortara's conduct, hasn't he? And you feel that he wants that back, but
yes.
Whether he's going to be able to do that or not, of course, Antonio Felix da Costa is behind, and this looks, you were saying there, he's had a rotten afternoon. Augusto Farfus, it becomes even more rotten now as the car gets retired.
Yeah, I mean, it should have been a decent race. The BMW's a good round here. He had a good grid position, but I think a legacy of getting involved in other people's dramas at the first couple of corners really did scupper the afternoon, and things have just got worse and worse and worse. This is third, fourth and fifth. Now this, in the fullness of time, is where you anticipate Spengler arriving on the scene. So third will be as good as it gets, barring disaster for the top two.
Of course, we've been talking about the fact that Spengler is going to come up against Acosta and Glock, where he shouldn't meet too much resistance, it should be said. Marco Wittmann's going to be onto back market traffic as well, and he's got to, you know, he's got to weave through that, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. I mean, he's still got enough in hand not to worry too much, and he'll be able to do it on the pit straight, I would have thought. If he times it right, the team will be telling him where slower cars are around the circuit. There's Vitoris to lap soon. Petrov is a further 12 seconds up the road, so he's not going to have too much to worry about, I don't think, before the end. Wittmann, fair play, has really driven massively impressively in not just this race, but this season, of course. I mean, he was doing well at Ossersleben before he had that electrical problem. He was the winner first time out at Hockenheim, and he's not put a wheel wrong here. He leads Molina by 4.3 seconds, and that's creeping up all the time.
I don't know whether this is relevant or not. You will tell me, but car number 15, who is car number 15? Of course, it's Edo Mortara, has had 3 warnings now for track limits. 3 warnings.
It's not good, is it?
No.
I think the 4th is where it might start to get a bit more worrisome. And now he's under real pressure anyway from Timo Glock, who's got himself right back onto the tail of the Audi heading up to turn 14, Dave Richardson.
Oh, let's see what Timo Glock can do here. He feels very wronged, doesn't he? So Timo Glock desperately trying to get past that Audi of Edo Mortara, and can Timo Glock do it? They're down the start-finish straight, over the crest they go. It's the downhill section into turn 1. What can Timo Glock do here? Well, Edo Mortara in defence already covers that line off, so Timo Glock is going to try for the switch back here, but I don't think he's close enough to be able to do it. Do they get alongside? No, they don't. Antonio Felix da Costa is a spectator behind them, just watching to see what's going to happen between these two.
But he can't take his eye off his mirrors as now Glock goes up the inside and makes contact with Mortara and forces him out wide. They're side by side, but Mortara still hangs on to the place. like a dog with a bone. He won't let go of it, will he? But look at Rockenfeller in 6th place, because he's going to buy into this any moment.
Absolutely. So we're back on board with Timo Glock then. There was contact between Glock and Mortara. Well, Glock will say that's nothing in comparison to what I had to put up with. So Timo Glock then still on that charge. But as you say, whilst these have been squabbling, it's held up Antonio Felix da Costa as well. And now Mike Rockenfeller is right on the back of them. He's currently P6.
Now here's a replay. Glock up the outside. They lean on each other, but Eduardo Mortara is coming through, and he gets back ahead, keeps the place. This was Glock's view. Around the outside.
And there you can feel the knock, can't you?
Yeah.
Through our onboard camera there.
There might be some discussions post-race between Glock and Mortara. Tell you what, though, it's giving us a battle we didn't really anticipate.
No.
It's gloves off between the two of them, but now da Costa is going to have to make his BMW wide, because Mike Rockenfeller in the Audi run by the Phoenix team has arrived on the scene. Heading uphill, this is the end of lap number 34. Wittmann still leads the way. The gap last time was down by a couple of tenths, interestingly, over Miguel Molina. And here you've got Mortara, then Glock, then da Costa, and then Rockenfeller as they pour over the line.
And you just see Robert Wickens into the picture as well. Mike Rockenfeller here on Antonio Felix da Costa. He's not close enough to be able to do anything, but Robert Wickens is being passed by Bruno Spengler. Now, of course, Bruno Spengler is going to be on that warring pact in a moment, David. And what he does, you know, he needs to get through them as quickly as possible, doesn't he? He's dealt with Wickens right now.
Trouble is, he's now, as you say, having to overtake more people, and he's losing a little bit of time. We've done 34 laps. The projection was he'd be 29 seconds back. He's actually over 30 seconds back, so he's losing a little bit now, because these guys, understandably, aren't going to give up position easily. No. Spengler's having to work harder for these places.
Okay, so Spengler is going to be up then on Rocky da Costa, and this little pack here that is having its own little battle, isn't it? Yeah. At the moment, the challenge from Timo Glock has gone away a little bit.
Okay, he's 5.6 seconds off the back of Rockenfeller, so he'll get up with this lot before the end, but then life to work his way through becomes difficult but fascinating, because he is on a better set of tyres, and let's see what he can do to work his way through this. A podium for Bruno Spengler is a possibility.
Well, we'll see if he can achieve that, as lap 35 of 41 here at the Hungaroring. Dare I say it then, the cloud looks ever darker as we reach the final stages of this race. It really has darkened over the Hungaroring circuit, but no, we've seen no drops of rain yet. There is Timo Glock in the Deutsche Post colours then, a little way back from Mortara now.
Spengler has gone through 28.7 seconds back. He is now struggling. In fact, his last lap, 38.4, yeah, he's 1.9 seconds quicker. So the lap time's not as good as they need to be. Now behind him, Maxime Martin is lapping still on the same sort of pace, but it's looking less likely that Spengler will even get third. That's Lapri as Wittmann sorts out Christian Vitoris. So that is what we are expecting to see, because the Mercedes is towards the back of the grid, having lost its time early on. So Christian Vitoris, who is on the option tyre, even now, I'm afraid to say, can't do anything about the pace of a BMW that is on the prime tyre. Really, really disappointing for Mercedes, that.
Yes. Well, and I think you said this earlier, Marco Wittmann has done everything absolutely right. He's ticked every box this afternoon. He's done what he needed to do, and he's done it very, very well indeed. So as we continue to watch this battle between Mortara and Glock, and da Costa in the mix, and Mike Rockenfeller, and just look how Bruno Spengler now is seeing Mike Rockenfeller within his target sights. And this is where it could go, the potential for the podium for Bruno Spengler. I think this is where it is going to happen or not happen for him, because it's how quick he can get through this lot.
Yeah, at this point, can I throw my calculations away? Because all of that was done with effectively tyres and clear track space and general speed. Now it's down to racecraft.
Yes.
He's done the catching. Now you cannot have any pattern, because he's coming up against people who are going to make these cars very wide indeed. Spengler goes through 27.6 seconds back, which is 2 seconds further back than we anticipated he would be by this stage.
Right.
And so now a podium finish is less likely because it's going to take him longer to get through this traffic. Even though all these cars that you're looking at have a chance of finishing third, life now for Spengler becomes much tougher. We're on lap 37 out of 41, and Bruno now needs to take a deep breath, head down, and go for it.
Okay, so this is the battle that we're going to watch then, as Bruno Spengler first encounters Mike Rockenfeller ahead of him. And what can Bruno Spengler do to get past two champions here? The current champion is Mike Rockenfeller. Previous champion, of course, Bruno Spengler. Audi versus BMW. And Mike Rockenfeller, of course, is defending his track position. He's not going to let Bruno Spengler through. Spengler is going to really have to fight for this. You can see the darkening cloud above as we go through that chicane here at the Hungaroring. It's the left-hander now as they work their way around the lap here. Bruno Spengler all over the back of Mike Rockenfeller, just trying to unsettle him, but of course Mike Rockenfeller, hugely experienced driver, is not going to be unsettled by Bruno Spengler, that's for sure. He's going to be made to work for it, and that's exactly what Bruno Spengler is going to have to do here. Right, there you can see him just dive out of the slipstream of Mike Rockenfeller a little bit there.
And look behind as well. Maxime Martin is trying to buy into this as well. Remember in the early part of the race how those on the Prime did defend. They're not a walkover. People don't arrive on the back of you and just breeze on by. And certainly late in the race, there's even more defence to be put up. So Mike Rockenfeller is certainly not going to roll over, is he? As you see there, Christian Vitoris out of the race.
So Christian Vitoris out of the race then as we get back to this battle then. Just watch for that black BMW to dive up the inside of Mike Rockenfeller. I don't think he's close enough to be able to do anything there.
Not there, he's not. He does close up even more under braking. He's going to get the drive out of the corner, but he's on the wrong line for turn two. He's got to be absolutely dead set ahead to take the line going into turn two, and Rockenfeller is ideally placed on the inside to defend, but Spengler has done it. That's a good pass.
That was a brilliant pass from Bruno Spengler then, who disposes then of Mike Rockenfeller. Now ahead of him, he will have Antonio Felix da Costa, shouldn't be a problem. Then he will have Timo Glock, shouldn't be a problem.
I also point out that last lap through, having caught Mike Rockenfeller, Spengler lost time relative to Wittmann for the first time since he made his pit stop.
Right.
So it's all very well saying he's catching at 2 seconds a lap, he was, but now life is much more difficult, and so also as you look at the replay of this round the outside.
Absolute commitment, wasn't it?
Absolutely so, but getting this podium finish that was a possibility is looking less and less likely.
Okay, I'd love to hear the radio traffic now. I really would.
I think the word push features quite strongly. But Bruno is doing just that. He doesn't need to be told, does he? Right, Da Costa is next. Now, this is where it gets interesting because they're both BMWs, and that looks like a gap. And Da Costa not quite as committed to the defence as the Audi was earlier, Dave.
Oh, how cynical of you, David Addison. So Spengler gets past Antonio Felix da Costa. I really rather suspect that he probably won't have too much problem getting past Timo Glock either, but we will see. He's not quite on the back of Timo Glock yet, but Bruno Spengler, there is Maxime Martin. Now, Maxime Martin has got to do what Bruno Spengler did a lap or so earlier with Mike Rockenfeller.
So let's see, Maxime Martin is on the back of Rockenfeller. The gap between Glock and Spengler is 0.8 of a second. And Mortara a little bit deep going into turn one. Now Martin has arrived on the tail of Rockenfeller, who has caught up to Da Costa as well. And now Da Costa's job, look, is to fall away from those ahead and make that car wide and therefore keep Rockenfeller at bay as there up the inside of Timo Glock, who was admiring the Maserati area in the paddock, goes Bruno Spengler. So Glock distracted momentarily, it must have been that, lets Bruno Spengler go through, and Spengler now is away to try and catch the Audi and bag third place before the end. And there is Tombe right on the back of Rockenfeller now. Tombe, remember, is on the option tyre.
So Adrian Tombe then in the black Audi that's right behind Mike Rockenfeller, as you say. He's on the option tyre. Bruno Spengler then, Tombe goes through.
And so does Muller, because they're on the options, and Mike Rockenfeller out wide up the escape roads. And so a man on the prime tyre is overtaken by fellow Audi drivers on the option. Right, while all this has been going on, there is Bruno Spengler, who has got himself now up past Mortara, has he not? Because Mortara has fallen back straight away to the clutches of Glock. Maxime Martin goes ahead of Da Costa as well, and Da Costa now has to try and keep Tombe at bay. There is Spengler. We're on lap 40. We're about to start the last lap of the race.
So Bruno Spengler then, our camera focuses on that BMW bank car, and rightly so, as we cross the start-finish line now.
Well, he's done it for the podium. He got past Mortara very easily indeed. There is Muller on the back look of Da Costa as they come across the line, but Spengler is 26.8 seconds back, which is a very, very big gap indeed.
And now through past Timo Glock then goes Maxime Martin. No surprise there. Look at the darkened cloud there. It's just going to come too late if any rain comes, isn't it? It's not going to affect this race, but it's Wittmann, Molina, Spengler.
Okay, but fourth is up for grabs, isn't it, before the end? Because now, Martin, look, you can just see at the head of the shot there, has got himself onto the back of Edo Mortara. So it is going to be Mortara versus Martin for fourth place at the end of the race. Up front, Wittmann is leading by nearly 6 seconds from Miguel Molina, but there are still places to be resolved behind.
Tombe driving like an absolute demon in the final stages of this race. He's got Timo Glock ahead of him, and there he had to use opposite lock just to control that car. So hard is he pushing there.
And he's going to get up alongside Timo Glock. Do they touch? Yes, they lean on each other. Tombe tries to cut ahead and he's done. He's got the better tyre, he's got the grip, he's got the drive, he's got the speed out of the corner. And look in the background as well. Muller at the inside of Da Costa. Done it. Gains the place.
And Da Costa then out wide. Well, everything happening in the closing stages of this race. There's the BMW bank car going through. Here's Maxime Martin.
And this, remember, is the battle for fourth place now. Wittmann, Molina, Spengler is going to be the podium, so Spengler will have done that great drive. But for fourth place, who is it going to be? They're absolutely nose to tail as they work their way up towards the line then. We've got one more lap to run for race leaders who've gone through. 7.7 seconds to go, and fourth place is not done yet. Spengler is 16 seconds back from Molina, and he's catching him at 4 seconds a lap, but he's going to run out of time. We're on the last lap, so this is the one that could change at turn one. Mortara just ahead of Martin.
So, can Martin do it?
Not there.
And look at Tombe right on the back of them now.
And Muller around the outside of Glock, and they touch, and Muller has spun. The Audi rotates just as they came out of turn one. There he is. There's debris all over the road. Rockenfeller was out wide in avoidance. There are bits of car. Some of that is BMW as well as Audi on the floor as Martin comes up to try and get alongside now for fourth place. He can't, and Tombe tries to buy into it as well. It is Audi catching BMW, stuck behind a slower Audi significantly.
So Tombe here is the one to watch in the Playboy colours. There is our race leader. I've almost forgotten about him. He's 7.7 seconds to the good, but he is leading this race. And barring disaster, Marco Wittmann is going to take the win. But what a race this has been towards the final stages here. Marco Wittmann with the Ice Watch livery. He has done absolutely everything perfectly. I really thought that this could be his year, and so far maybe it is going to be so, but this is going to be one huge tick for him as he rounds turn 14 and heads for the checkered flag. Marco Wittmann takes the win.
His second win of the season. Brilliant drive by Marco Wittmann. Inch perfect. There's a little stoppy in front of the team as Miguel Molina takes second, and then it's time for a deep breath as third and back pour through. Bruno Spengler then takes third, ran out of laps. Interesting how the option tyres seem to give people the advantage to pull away early on, but Spengler not able to get close enough towards the end. Third place is good from ninth on the grid, but 15 seconds adrift. Glock has got a problem. He's got a punctured tyre by the look of it. Yes, he has a legacy of his clash. So fourth at the end is just going to be Mortara. Tombe bags fifth ahead of Maxime Martin. Seventh over the line is Jamie Green. Da Costa is eighth. Ekstrom is ninth, and Rockenfeller is 10th. 11th is Robert Wickens, the best Mercedes driver, ahead of Nico Muller after his spin. And Timo Glock, who really, you could argue, should be on the podium, is limping round to the finish. And number 22 is under investigation, which is Nico Muller, for the incident at turn one. But I thought he went round the outside, so maybe he cut across, and that's what triggered the contact. The stewards will have a look at it. Tomczyk takes 13th, Wehrlein 14th. 15th across the line in the end is Joey Hand. In 16th place is Daniel Junqueira, and there, I'm afraid to say, is Timo Glock, and he's going to cross the line in the pit lane, and ultimately then he's going to drop into last place, depending on if Petrov and De Resta can sneak ahead of him. Miserable finish to the race for Timo Glock, because Petrov takes 17th, and 18th place goes to Paul De Resta. 19th in the pits is Timo Glock. Right, so here is how it all happened on the last few laps. That was how Spengler easily got himself onto the podium, because it was a mistake out of Mortara going into the chicane. We didn't see it at the time. So that was how a big chunk of time was gift wrapped to Bruno Spengler. Right, tick, we sorted that one out. This is what Mortara did wrong from the onboard up the escape road.
And that was just, as you say, the Christmas present, wasn't it, to
it was
Bruno
rather.
Spengler?
Right, this was Tombe versus Glock.
And they got a bit physical, didn't they?
Yeah, well, poor old Timo, you see, that BMW has a magnet in it because it attracts Audis. We've seen that from Mortara as well as Tommy. This is Muller, round the outside on the last lap. He's got his nose just about in front, tries to turn in, there's contact, and Glock sort of shovels him out of the way. Bits of carbon fibre go everywhere. Bang, he gets another whack. That's what it did for the tyre.
Yes.
So that was that bit of contact. Here's how Glock saw it. Okay. Hard to give real blame to either for that. Was it just one of those things? Glock certainly ran deep into the corner, and there was a bit of a twitch. You saw him have to correct the car. Muller on the outside. Anyway, he came off badly, but Glock came off worse. That's how Jamie Green saw it and thought, whoopee, one place gain. I'll get another one down the hill if he doesn't get back on the road. But by this stage, the tyre is deflating, and others lucky not to get punctures by running through all that debris.
Yeah, there was a lot of debris across there, wasn't there? Because the contact was kind of two-pronged, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And there is Timo Glock with the resultant damage then and the destroyed rear tyre there, as long as with quite a lot of destroyed bodywork as well. So thanks, Sebastian. There was all the crazy stuff. What a drive from this man.
Well, yeah, when Verena goes to talk to Marco Wittmann and says, that was a crazy race, he'll look at her and say, was it? Because he's done nothing all afternoon apart from drive round absolutely faultlessly on the perfect lines, and he's done a brilliant job, fair play. It all kicked off behind him, and it turned out to be a much more lively race than maybe we anticipated. But yes, Wittmann has put himself, importantly, as really now the cheerleader for BMW. He has put himself as top dog within the BMW ranks. He's beating more experienced drivers. He's beating former champions. We've had 3 races. He's led all 3 and he's won 2.
And we did say, going into the start of this race, that if he could get away, the overtaking opportunities are so rare here, although we've seen overtaking opportunities and chances and places where we never thought they existed in truth, then it would be the job for him, wouldn't it? And that's exactly what he has done, delivered absolutely perfectly. So Marco Wittmann, and I wholeheartedly agree with you, when Verena says, what a race, he's going to say, really?
He's pretty chuffed about it, though.
Yeah, he is, and deservedly so.
Yeah. Marco Wittmann doesn't give out smiles unnecessarily, but he will be very, very happy. First and third, incidentally, for BMW. Let's hear from Jens Marquardt.
Yes, I'm here with a very happy Jens Marquardt. We're right here where the action is. It's really loud, but first of all, congratulations to a victory. We've got a first and a third place.
Well, super result for us, really. Marco from the top, really a very, very strong race. Behind, I have to say, I'm really disappointed the way some guys behaved here. This was not proper racing, this was improper, and this needs to be looked into. But I'm super happy for Bruno because this in the end helped him to catch up. But this shouldn't be racing, we should be racing properly. So yeah, happy on one side, super happy, but in some respects also not so.
Okay, thank you very much, Jens Marquardt, and back to you guys.
Thank you, Verena. Now, it's not very often you see Jens Marquardt quite so cross as that. And obviously, he isn't happy in one respect, as he said.
Well, it's a fair point. There has been a lot of damage. It's good for us. We think it makes great TV. It's exciting racing.
Yes.
But if you're Timo Glock, to take one example, you'll be mighty miffed because towards the end of that race, under now a leaden sky, you've had a decent result snatched away by aggressive driving. Now, in fairness, Timo Glock is no walkover, so he made it difficult for those and he gave as good as he got. This is how they crossed the line. Underline cross the line rather than result. Marco Wittmann the winner by 6 seconds from Miguel Molina. Bruno Spengler third, then Mortara, Tombe, Martin for 6th, Green, Da Costa, Ekstrom, Rockenfeller ahead of Wickens and Muller, the top 12. Tomczyk 13th from Wehrlein, Hand, Junkadella, Petrov, De Resta, and Timo Glock, the last classified finisher. A number of drivers a bit grumpy. We know about Gary Paffett. I'm sure that Augusto Farfus will be a bit grumpy, but somebody who's pretty happy, I would think, with second is Miguel Molina.
Yes, I'm here with Miguel. Miguel, congratulations to second place. You were really fighting and pushing really hard. Are you glad?
Yeah, actually, it was a good fight. The car was really good. We finished P2. It's a good result for the championship. After 2 quite difficult starts in the season, I think we all deserve this podium, and for sure we'll fight for the victory next time.
I'm sure you will. Thank you so much. Back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Verena. There we can see Jens Marquardt congratulating Bruno Spengler, who, the race really came alive over the closing stages, didn't it? After the the strategy that you described and where the time had got to be made up and what he'd got to do. And, well, very, very interesting.
Somewhere out there are 15 seconds
Yes.
that Bruno Spengler lost. Now, in theory, he should have been almost like a handicap race, back up with the leaders come the very end. I think what that has proved is that if you start on the option and you get away, as Wittmann and to an extent Molina did, that works better because Spengler and the others that started on the prime were losing a little bit of time per lap, not just because of the tyre, but by having to defend and by running in traffic. And you add that up over the first 22 laps, and then it becomes an issue. Let's go back down to join Verena.
Yes, I'm here with the winner, with Marco Wittmann. Congratulations, you certainly did a perfect race. No mistakes, no nothing, you were just on a fly. How does it feel after such a perfect race?
Yeah, actually really, really great. As I said yesterday already, Zeki will be the starter of the race. It was close to Timo, but I was still on the better side in front of him. And from then onwards, I tried to make a gap, tried to get out of the DRS window, which worked well. And then it was important, if we change to the prime tires, to stay focused, do no mistakes, and hold the gap. And finally, that's what happened. And it's just a great result. P1, second win in the season. It's just unbelievable.
And it can stay like this, right?
Well, we will see next races.
All right, enjoy your victory. Thank you so much. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Verena, very much. And Timo, Marco smiling.
Yeah, this Timo not. Scheider's car on the flatbed. Just going back to my Spengler and his 15 seconds, I think also some of that time was lost when we had that crossover between an old set of primes and a new set because he was a little bit slower in that 2 or 3 lap window, wasn't he, after Wittmann had gone on. I think he lost a second a lap or so there. They weren't quite as
Just
good.
on that crossover section.
On that 3 lap window, that period before he made his stop. So, you add it all together and still a big chunk of time to lose, and no doubt we'll hear from Bruno Spengler shortly. This is how the championship looks. Fascinating, Dave.
Yeah, it is. And look who's top of the championship now. Marco Wittmann. Mike Rockenfeller felt that he might lose the lead of the championship, and he was right, and it's gone the way of Marco Wittmann, who on 50 points. Then it's Rocky on 31. Edo Mortara is at P3 in the championship now with Molina, Tombe, Vitoris, Spengler, Ekstrom, Farfus, De Resta, Glock and Martin. Top 12 in the Drivers' Championship. And, well, there you can see the trophies. DTM Budapest, 1 June 2014, winner, P2 and P3. And still a lot of racing to come in this season, and we're going to a very, very different circuit next.
Yeah, the streets of the Norris Ring come next, and that's going to be another test for the teams and the drivers, but Marco Wittmann will leave Hungary as the championship leader and has won, therefore, 2 out of the 3 races that we have had this season, and marking himself out as a very impressive driver indeed. Although fair play to Bruno Spengler, you can see why BMW was keen to attract him. His initial DTM relationship with Mercedes ended a little bit sourly. He wasn't convinced he was getting the support perhaps he should. He went to BMW, and you can see why Jens Marquardt is happy to have Bruno Spengler on the books, because that was a great second stint. And in fairness, so it was also for Maxime Martin. I know he got mugged towards the end by Tombe because of the way that Audi ran its cars and helped a little bit, but he drove extremely well. And Miguel Molina for second place, a very, very good effort indeed. So Audi delighted with that as he came through to finish in second place, having started third on the grid. The big losers of the day, Timo Glock, Augusto Farfus, because they were in that top 6 on the grid. And Bruno Spengler started 9th. He did say in a very long interview after qualifying yesterday that you never know in the DTM, anything can happen. We'll see how we do on the strategy. Well, Marco Wittmann's drive is a good one, but Bruno Spengler from 9th to 3rd, equally impressive for different reasons.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right there. You mentioned there some of the casualties, if you like, of the race. Can't lose sight of the fact that we lost Gary Paffett very early on in the race as well, didn't we? That's still to be looked at, of course. Gary felt hugely aggrieved and felt it was Joey Hand at fault there. And you mentioned just a little while ago that actually when he looks at that again, he may have a different view. Yeah,
I think Hand did hit Paffett, but I don't think he did it necessarily voluntarily. I think there was a bit of a kerfuffle as Christian Vitoris tried to find a gap, and in the heat of battle with everyone going for the same bit of real estate on the first lap, there was a little bit of nudging, and that sort of speared him out with a bit more acceleration into another car.
Something Jens Marquardt said, and that was, driving standards today here at Hungary, it was a very physical race, David. There was lots of contact. Now, part of that is due to the nature of the circuit, where the overtaking opportunities are far fewer than at some circuits. It's quite narrow in places, and clearly that's always going to attract that, isn't it?
It is, and he's looking at it as well from one point of view, which is BMW's.
Yeah, of course.
And, of course, if one of his car loses places, he will adopt that attitude. Now, Audi will say that they had to get their drivers to push because they want to gain places, and because of the way BMW drivers were defending, they had to take a few more risks. So, there are two sides to every story, aren't there? Yes, it was a physical race. You're absolutely right. The fans loved it outside here.
So did we.
Indeed so. And somewhere is that happy medium between keeping the fans happy and clean racing. But we don't want to see processional racing. Maybe this was a bit more physical than we all anticipated, but it certainly made for a great spectacle, certainly in those last few laps, as the winning drivers make their way onto the podium. And for the second time this year, the winner is Marco Wittmann.
So Wittmann then takes the top step of the podium. And, Bruno Spengler, an equally impressive drive. I think you're absolutely right there. And Molina, too, on the second step of the podium. And we await the national anthem for Marco Wittmann to come. Just all the dignitaries making their way onto the podium. Here it is. So national anthem plays out, and there is Marco Wittmann, who thumps the air with delight, of course, taking the win here at Budapest for DTM. And what a fantastic trophy he's going to receive from Dr. Miklos Šestak, the KDMP Vice President. He kisses the trophy and salutes the team down below as well. There is the team principal, Dr. Jens Marquardt.
The team trophy presented to the BMW squad, and for the Reinhold Motorsport team, a very good result indeed. As now Jost Goilai, the director and CEO of the Hungarian circuit, steps forward and hand over the trophy to Miguel Molina for second position. Maybe that was a result he wasn't anticipating early in the race.
Maybe so, yeah. And Dr. Miklos Benja, then the president of MANS Z. Look at the delight that Spengler has. Wow. And it was a phenomenal drive from Spengler.
I don't mean this to sound flippant, but he's a bit like a weeble. However much you knock him over, he bounces back, Bruno Spengler. Weebles wobble and they don't fall down.
Oh, okay.
You give him a duff qualifying and he starts ninth, and he still hauls the car up to third. He's a bit sort of Alonso-esque from Formula One,
Yeah.
Whatever you give him, he will wring everything out of that car.
Yes.
And Bruno Spengler is still just as good as Marco Wittmann. I know we talk about Wittmann as now establishing himself as perhaps the lead guy at BMW, but you rule out Bruno Spengler from any race for a good result at your peril, and don't write him off yet for the championship, because a lot can still happen before the end of the season.
Okay, the Henkeltrocken then gets sprayed across the podium here. It is Hungaroring and DTM then, and I would think, David Addison, that Hungaroring would be jolly pleased to have the DTM back again.
Yeah, I think if they can deliver a race like that, absolutely. It's been a circuit at which the teams have tested. They have spent days and hours getting the last thousandth of a second out of the car, and all that's been lobbed out of the window by some people with sharp elbows, and a race that ended up being very physical. And I have to say, this new tyre rule that's been brought in this year with the length you can run, the options and the primes, has certainly made for some very interesting races. It's not given as the sort of handicap race, everybody together at the end finish. There is still some strategy as to when you use them and how you drive on those tyres, but it certainly gave us a fascinating end to what was a very lively race here at the Hungaroring.
You're right there, and the drivers now will make their way to the press conference, and we hope that Verena will catch up with some of them before they make their way to Peter Reichardt. Will be hosting the international press conference, as he always does, as Marco Wittmann there wipes some of the Henkeltrocken away from his face and hair, and returns with the Hankook baseball cap. But here is Bruno Spengler, and a delighted Bruno Spengler with Verena.
Absolutely, it's still drying up. There we go. Congratulations from P9 to P3. You really are a fighter.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very happy. I mean, yesterday was a tough day. You know, we did not have the qualifying we hoped for. We struggled with the car. My team did everything they could, but we just struggle. You know, you don't hit the window all the time. It's such a tough series. And today, I mean, in the race, especially on the second stint with the option tires, the car was so good. I mean, it was flying. It was like an airplane. My car was really fast. So I enjoyed, you know, from lap 1 on the option tires to the very last lap, I enjoyed. I was catching up. Could push like I wanted. Great strategy for my team. My guys did an amazing pit stop. It was very fast. So thank you to Team Schnitzer, to BMW. And it's great, you know, 2 BMWs on the podium today. It's really nice.
It's a great day for you. Thank you so much, Bruno, who is now flying an airplane. Back to you guys.
Brilliant, Verena. Okay.
It was a great drive, in fairness to Bruno Spengler. Had he been able to keep chipping away at 2 seconds a lap, he'd have been 15 seconds behind in the end. Well, he still got his podium finish, helped a bit by the mistake from Mortara, but it did show in the latter laps of the race how the option tyre worked better than the primes. And our team's now starting to think that they all ought to start on the option. I don't think so, because internally you'll still want some of the drivers within a brand, within the manufacturer camp, doing different things. And, of course, if there is a late race safety car...
Exactly the point I was going to make. All you can ever do is look at the case scenario, can't you? You can only plan for us. You can't plan for every eventuality, and there's always going to be things happen in the course of a race which will throw your planning out completely. And I think we've seen some of that today, haven't we? And what would have happened if over the last 5 laps the predicted rain had come?
Well, indeed. I mean, people would have had to either tiptoe round or be really bold and go onto wets, depending on the deluge that we got.
Sure.
We've had 3 races, 2 of which have been dry, and different types of circuits. Hockenheim, very wide, very fast. Hungaroring, tight and twisty and narrow. What can you read into all the strategies thus far as we look at some of the highlights of the race? This was the start. Augusto Farfus, we know, had gone backwards. Adrian Tombe lost places. Bruno Spengler did some of his hard work off the line. He made a good getaway. It was really close down to that first corner. Timo Scheider bogged down a bit as well, didn't he? And he lost ground as they accelerated down towards turn 1. But certainly the first few corners, as predicted, were physical. Let's just see if we get replays here. We can piece together the Paffett incident once again. No, not from that shot, I'm afraid we can't. But as the race wore on, that was Spengler getting out foxed early on by Molina, who didn't make a great start but recovered well. Tombe got himself involved in battles also. Farfus by this stage had gone tumbling back down the order. So there was a lot happening all the way through the race, wasn't there?
Yes, there was, and that was the Timo Scheider retirement in the end, wasn't it, where the car had to get parked up. And that was really, really curious as well, because we did see a shot, and you can see there that the rear wing was broken.
And then Mortara and Glock got together and created some great racing. It was all a bit robust, and that was the first contact, wriggling through turn 2. Mortara got himself ahead, and Adrian Tombe running wide up onto the curb. He already got ahead of Timo Scheider. This is from earlier on in the race. Nico Muller bouncing wide. So there was action all the way. Drivers taking to Hungaroring, which the drivers will tell you was a circuit they love racing at. This was the fight between Glock and Molina. And Glock back up the inside, left his braking too late, ran out wide. And Molina did the right thing. He got off the throttle, slowed the car down, went for the gap on the inside and took the place. And that was good driving by him, good awareness of what was going on.
Yes, I think you're right. Great to see some of these highlights then. And those cars really bouncing. You pointed that out earlier in commentary, down that start-finish straight into turn 1.
It was Mortara getting himself up past the BMW of Antonio Felix da Costa. Then the pit stops came. Adrian Tombe, in the end, just to make the point again, 5th, helped a little bit by Mortara stacking up Maxime Martin towards the end. But Tombe, a good recovery from losing places early on. Jamie Green made his move on Jerry Hand. Jamie, in the end, where did he finish up? Because he battled his way to 7th ahead of da Costa right at the very end. So it was another fighting drive by Jamie Green, perhaps a little bit anonymous early on, but he was there when it mattered. And he was in the points, crucially, which he hasn't been hitherto this year. And that man should have been a part of it, and he knows it. But it's been a bad day at the office for Timo Scheider. Bad day at the office for this man as well.
Where were the tyres? Where were they? Look, still being got out of the garage and out of the warmers.
Yeah, either as though there was a miscommunication that they weren't anticipating him to come in, or they thought he'd come in because there was damage or a problem. But yeah, Farfus, in the end, retired from the race, and he's pretty disheartened, I think, with the whole affair today. Some of the wing being retrieved by Timo Scheider. And Audi with all the data to hand, having a quick look in the rule book, I think, there.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Look like the regulations to me. So Timo Glock's race in the end finishes with it classified as 19th place, but that's not representative of the pace he had in that. This was the fight he had late on with Tombe, who got squeezed out. I mean, Timo Glock, yes, may well be dispirited with the amount of contact, but he gave as good as he got.
Yes. Yes, I think you're right. And there you can see Timo's reactions to some of the robust moves that went on, but I think you're absolutely right. I think it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, perhaps, in that situation. But here we see another slow-mo of, or replay rather, of one of the pit stops there. Only just noticed that car number 22 is under investigation.
Yeah, that was, I think we just touched on at the end of the race, but that's Nico Muller who'd gone round the outside, and that strikes me as a bit odd given the replays we've had. But anyway, Nico Muller under investigation as we head now to Peter Reichart and the press conference.
So, ladies and gentlemen, mesdames et messieurs, meine Damen und Herren, very warm welcome from my side.